Good morning, kids. I am sitting here at my house and I am thinking about you all. It is Tuesday morning. I still don't have a whole lot of information for you on what we're going to be learning and how I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be meeting with Ms. Trahan and Mrs. Elliott today via Google Hangout to try to put a plan into place for the next couple days. At any rate, I thought maybe you'd like to see a video of my dog here. Let me see if I can pause this one and try something else. So, good morning, kids. I am sitting here at my house. So, if this works right, this should just play a video from yesterday, 2 days ago actually, from Sunday. I was trying to sled with my dog.
She does not like it. No more, no more!
So we tried sledding for the snow. I hope you guys got outside. Even though we're kind of under this quarantine, get outside and have fun. Try not to be with big groups of people. So if you're outside, go with your family, go with small groups, but don't be with friends because we want to keep this virus from spreading. Okay, so this morning what I want to talk to you about is I want to talk to you about a new concept in math. Let me pause it here. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video right here and get out a piece of paper and a pencil. Okay, pause it, because I know you didn't. Go pause it. All right, I hope when you have a piece of paper and a pencil now. So I want to talk to you about what we did last week. We talked about how multiplication works in general, because it's a review concept. And we know that if we have 6 groups of 1, it's pretty easy to draw. Right? That's 6 groups of 1. I fill them all the way in, I suppose. Especially when we start to talk about fractions, it's good to know what we're talking about. That's easy. And when we notate that with 6 groups of 1, or 6 times 1. Remember, the dot or the x, either one, both show multiplication. If I'm looking for 6 groups of 1/2, that's still pretty easy to draw. And I can write that just like I did with the dot and the x above. 6 groups of 1/2. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit. And I'm going to add another column over here. And I want you to do the math on this one. Should be pretty simple so far. So pause the video right here. 6 times 1 equals, and 6 times 1/2 equals. What do we have? What's in the picture? Well, let's get out the green for St. Patrick's Day as we do the math. Well, 6 groups of 1, that's real simple. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 times 1, as you know, is 6. 6 groups of 1/2 is pretty easy to see too, because when we get here, 6 groups of 1/2, well, that's 1, because half plus half is a whole. 2 and 3. So 6 times 1/2, or half of 6, is 3. Remember, we noticed that because of the commutative property, 6 times 1/2 and 1/2 times 6 are going to give us the same answer. Half of 6 is 3. 6 times 1/2 is 3. A little bit harder to draw, but I want you to stop in a second here and do it. I would like 6 groups of 3/4. We did this one last week as well, and we're just building off that thought. But go ahead and draw out 6 groups of 3/4. Pause the video. All right. Did you draw it like this? just like that, we have 6 groups of 3/4. This is a little bit harder to count up, but when we do it, we're going to take a piece out of each of these. Like this piece can come and make this one whole. This piece, let's take it from right here, can come up here and make that one whole. So we have 2. And this piece right here, we'll take that one and we'll put it up above and make that another hole. So we have 3 whole on the top. And then what do we have on the bottom? Well, we really have a half left here, a half left here, and a half left here. That's, again, pretty easy to add up. We have 1, 2, 3. A half plus a half makes another whole. And we have a half left over that we just have to account for. It's just hanging out there. That doesn't make a whole. So we can write this the same way. 6 times 3/4. Should have made my 6 a little bigger or my 3/4 a little smaller. But regardless, 6 times 3/4. And we know it has to equal 4.5. But how do we get there? If you're paying attention, you know how to do that math right. So I'm going to have you pause the video and do that math right down here in those 2 spots. For reals, boys, pause the video. I know some of you aren't. Do the math. So you know that 6 is the same as 6 over 1. And if we're multiplying, we're going to multiply by 3/4. We're not going to change that at all. And we're going to multiply straight across. We multiply numerator by numerator and denominator by denominator. So 6 times 3 is 18. 18 is the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. And we have 18/4. That still doesn't really look like 4.5. I'd like you to start from here then, if you haven't already, and figure out how we make 18/4 into 4.5. Of course, you know we simplify. We think how many fourths makes a whole, and of course that is 4/4. We see it right in our image on the left. 4/4 is 1 whole. So 18/4, well, that's 4/4 plus 4/4, that's 8, plus 4/4, 12, plus 4/4, so that's 16. So I have 2 more fourths out of that whole 18. So that's 1 whole plus 2 makes 3, makes 4. It's really 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, but we end up with 4 whole and 2/4 left. And we also know from all that time we spent simplifying that if we divide by 2 over 2, because 2 and 4 can both be divided by 2, we get 1/2. You probably see this as 1/2 just right off the bat. You probably don't even need to write this step down at all. So our final answer is 4.5, which is great because that's what we drew and that's what it represents. So the next step is for you to try some problems at home. I'm going to start a new slide here. And what I want you to do is I want you to solve these problems. Alright, so copy these problems down, pause the video while you do so, and in just a moment, we'll come back and solve them. Okay, all done? I am going to put the answers up here first, and then we'll talk about the solutions. Okay, check your answers. Let's take a look at a couple of these and see how we got all these answers. In fact, it's pretty interesting that we've got all these whole numbers. Only one of our answers even has a fraction in it. Let's take a look at that. Let's go and look at 6 times 1/3, and that equals 2 for starters. Well, we're going to put 6 over 1 because anytime we have a whole number and we need to use it as a fraction, we put it over 1. I have 6 wholes, right? So I'm going to multiply times 1/3 and multiply straight across. 6 times 1 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. And when I say straight across, I mean I keep the numerators together and I keep the denominators together. Remember, in addition and subtraction, we don't mess too much with the denominators. But with multiplication, we multiply them. So 6/3, well, now I think of that fraction bar as a division symbol. What is 6 divided by 3? Or 6 divided by 3? Well, 6 divided by 3 is a basic fact. That's 2. Okay. But if I want to show this with fractions, I have 3/3 plus 3/3. Remember, in addition and subtraction, we don't change that denominator. 3 plus 3 is 6, right? 6/3. So that's a whole right there and a whole right there. That's our final answer of 2 for that problem. Let's take a look at this one here, because this one's kind of the funkiest of the bunch. If we look at 4 times 5/6, again, we are going to put that 4 as a numerator over 1 with its denominator times 5/6. 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 6 is 6. Multiplying straight across. And then we have to simplify, because that's not anywhere close to a proper fraction or a mixed number. It's very improper. We've got a lot more in the numerator. So I'm going to look at how many 6's go into 20. That's the way I think of it. You could think of it just as 20 divided by 6, because again, that fraction bar is the division symbol. So I could think of it as 20 divided by 6 if I want. We've done a lot of those. Or I could think of it just as how many 6's in 20? Well, I've got 3 6's can go into 20. I know that because I know 6 times 3 is one of my basic facts. That's 18, right? So if 6 times 3 is 18, I know I have 3 sets of 6 over 6. I'd have 6 over 6, that's 1. 6 over 6, that's 2. And 6 over 6, that's 3. So I have 3 right there. So that's how I have 3 whole. But I'm not done, because I have 18 as with a 6 over 6 plus 6 over 6 plus 6 over 6. That's only 18 out of 20. And my numerator over here is 20. So, well, what's left? It's 2. Now, if I have 3 whole and I have 2 6 left, because remember, I have to get to 20 in the numerator, and my denominator with addition just stays the same. So I have 2 6. So if I have 3 whole, 1, 2, 3, and this 2 6 left over with it, now I'm starting to see where I've got 1/3. Because when I simplify 2 6, and I know you already saw it, by 2 over 2, we get 3 and 1/3. Alright kids, so here's the last step for today. It's also where you need to make sure you have a clean piece of paper, a pencil to write with, and a parent or a grown-up, someone else. Even an older brother or sister will work for this. Pause the video, get those things. Piece of paper, pencil, you should already have those, and a grown-up. Alright kids, hopefully you have a grown-up there, or an older sister, brother, anyone who can write a few problems for you. Their goal is to write a few, maybe 5 to 10 problems for you to solve. That's my dog squeaking her toy in the background. Any rate, the problems I want your grown-up to write for you are problems that are a whole number, like 6 times a fraction, like 1/3. Okay. Now, grown-ups, feel free to make these as hard as you want. It can be, 17 times 342. 56. That would be pretty tricky, but your students could be able to solve them. I would stick to more of the top type than the bottom type until you see that they've got this concept pretty well done. But I would like about 10 problems from them. You can make them up as you want, and check them with your 5th grader. Remember that in the top one, we're going to multiply straight across for numerators, straight across for denominators, and simplify. This 17 times 342.56 would take a lot of work, whereas the 6 times 1/3 is going to be pretty straightforward. Thanks, I hope you have a great day. I have a meeting with Ms. Trahan and Ms. Elliott today on Google Hangouts, and we're going to have a plan for you soon. And here's that dog. She's got her little dragon Stuffy.